Hey guys, just me today. I wanted to share with you guys an experience that Dan had getting some new glasses last week. Um, this is an accessibility note. We had some, but it's not about the physical facility, it was about the people in it. So here's what happened. And usually I'm very diplomatic and I put links in if you really want to look and see what's going on or who did it or whatever. It was, we're right up front with this one. This was the America's Best Contacts and Eyeglasses. It's located in Audubon. It's in the shopping center with the Walmart right on the Black Horse Pike. So it's out there. So Dan has needed new glasses for a little while. One of the communication tools he uses actually clips on his glasses, so it's even more important than the glasses themselves. So I made appointments for both of us, one today for Dan and one tomorrow for me. So we're all caught up, and we got there today. And they hand you the medical form right inside the door. So I'm sitting there writing out the medical form, and Dan's sitting next to me in the waiting area. And this woman comes out, and I guess she was like an office manager or some administrative person. I don't think she was a doctor, but she comes out and says, look, before you fill all that out and wait and everything, we really feel like your husband should go to a specialist who's trained in cases like him. So you see where this is going, right? So these kind of stories always end up in my quizzing the people, pressing them for answers, and then being infuriated and bad-mouthing them for weeks afterwards. So this is where this is going. So she says this, and I look at her and I say, what do you mean his condition? His eyes are fine. He has no issues, just needs a new pair of glasses and he's due for a checkup. And she says, yeah, well, people like him, we find they do better with a specialist. And I said, we don't want to go to a specialist. His eyes are fine. I said, and he goes to his own dentist from prior to the accident. I said, I don't understand why we need to see a specialist. And full disclosure, Dan sees a million specialists for everything. Center City, we go all over the place. I don't want another specialist. I want a retail location where we can go in there and get a pair of glasses. And the woman's like, well, let me go talk to the doctor. So she goes back into the back and she brings a doctor out. And then she excuses herself because she sees it's not going well. So I'm talking to the doctor, and the doctor's, the same thing, the same verbiage. It's almost like it was kind of part of the training. And he says, well, we find that people with Dan's issues do better with specialists. And I just kept saying, why? I said, why? And he says, well, we're not really equipped for that. And I said, how so? If they had told me something useful, like their chairs are bolted to the floor and there's no room for the wheelchair or something like that, I wouldn't have been happy about that, but I would have got it. And so he says, well, and I'm being pretty firm, nice at this point, but firm. And I'm saying, we just want his eyes examined and an eyeglass prescription. You guys don't want to fill it? That's fine. I'll put it online. We don't care. But we don't want to go see a specialist. So he goes and gets another guy. And they both come out, both of the doctors that were on duty that day, both of whom Dan and I have seen in the past. We've been going to this location for years. So the other guy comes out and he looks at him and he says, well, we're concerned about his ability to communicate. And I said, have you talked to him? Or are you just eyeballing him from a distance and saying, this guy can't communicate? So we were able to demonstrate that Dan could communicate. There was nobody in the office. Following this is a couple shots of the waiting room. The pre-exam waiting room where Dan was sitting, where he's the only guy, wheelchair or no. So, bottom line, and it gets worse, mind you, but I'm going to spare everybody and say that bottom line, he had the exam. His chair is so adjustable. Arms come down and up. He can go up, he can sit comfortably at a bar, and he can go all the way back down again and sit like at a kitchen table or, you know, a lower height. He can lean forward, he can lean back. It's a very versatile wheelchair. And between that and the fact that actually most of their equipment was very adaptation friendly, you know, also went up and went down and went side to side and could be pushed forward. With those combined things, we completed the entire appointment. The only thing we didn't do was the glaucoma. Dan has no family history of that. He hates that test, and he was already a little off because of all the carry-on it took us to get back to the exam. So we passed on that. Everything else was fine. Retinal scan, prescription scan, everything went fine. So we're in the office with the doctor. I promised I wouldn't tell you guys this, but I'm telling you anyway. We're in there with the doctor, and the doctor's like, yeah, we're really not set up for patients like this. He would be considered a special care patient. And I said, you know, I would totally agree with you most of the time, but his eyes are fine. The man is nearsighted. I said, have you seen no nearsighted people today? Like, what is going on? I couldn't believe it. And by that time, I had kind of lost it. So he hands me a referral on the way out the door and says, you know, this is where you need to go next year. In other words, don't call us, we'll call you. We're going back. We're going back. Because Dan does not need to go to the Eye Institute in Center City to get a prescription for nearsightedness and reading glasses. He does not. And there's some advantage for Dan in going to a place he's familiar with, a place from before. He's always enjoyed that, going to the dentist. It's his old dentist, you know. And every other doctor Dan has is unfamiliar. Most of them are in these special need, you know, care clinics, whatever. Dan doesn't need more of that. He communicates fine. He was able to read greatly to the doctor's surprise. The letters, you know, you go in and it's like E, V, H and all of that stuff. He was able to, he didn't even need me to translate it. He can do that.
1 or 3. 3's better. 3 or lens 4. 3's better, right? Okay.
He understood every single word the doctor said. And in my personal opinion, he was the smartest guy in the room at that point. So takeaways from this. Okay, well, for one thing, this is the single worst retail/medical experience we have ever had. The worst. Hands down in 5 years. So it would have been really nice if they had not looked at Dan from across the room and drew a lot of conclusions about his capabilities, about his condition, about whether it was appropriate for him to have an eye examination. You can't do that. If there's one takeaway that I could share with no judgment and no commentary of any kind, but, you know, come up and talk to the person. And if the person can't communicate, if you find that out, which you cannot do from across an 18-foot room, am I right? Then you talk to the person standing next to them. The other thing is that every single employee, even the more supportive ones, there was a young woman who was a technician, was doing the scanning. She was lovely. Could not have bent over backwards to make sure Dan was comfortable, and she got, you know, accurate and clear readings on her scans. But even she talked to me first, with Dan right next to me. They're all talking to me. Can he do this? Can he do that? It was horrible. It was really bad. And I kept saying, well, ask him, you know? So then they all turned around and asked him, and they got an answer. And if they didn't understand it, I facilitated it for them. End of story. Same thing. So I included a couple pictures, some fun ones, of Dan trying on glasses, which he hates. And you can kind of see it in the sequence of what he's tried on. He's real happy at the beginning, and he's like, I'm done by the end. So that's really funny. A shot of the empty waiting room, and a short video of him being examined and how, sorry, mosquitoes, of him being examined and how successful that was. So I guess if I could advise one thing, again, without judgment or commentary, talk to the person first. Don't talk to the person sitting next to them. Never do that. I think a majority of the time, that person probably can communicate. The percentage of people that cannot communicate verbally is fairly low, we've found. And, always take a shot on the disabled person first. Never look to the companion or the nurse. Dan's nurse, Dave, was with us as well. Never talk to them and say, can you do this, can you do that? Right in front of them. Now, is this common sense? 100%. 100%. And I think the last people that showed up at this America's Best Contacts in Audubon, New Jersey, they got talked out of coming in. Because these guys, they had no clue. No clue at all. I couldn't believe it. Dan was upset by the time he got in there. This man was underestimated by a total of probably about 6 people before he even got in with the doctor, who was a jackass, excuse me. So, like I said, big takeaway, no judgment. It's hard to know what to say to someone who appears to be as disabled as Dan does. No doubt. I would have had all kinds of trouble 6 years ago with this. Before I retired, I was a special ed teacher. So I have maybe a better idea of how to approach people where they are than most. And that's nobody's fault. I had training. Well, these folks need some training too. So enjoy all the pictures of Dan trying on glasses, and we will both see you in the next video. Talk to you soon.
One's better. 1 or 3. 3's better. 3 or limbs. 4. 3's better, right? Okay, very good.